Hi, this is Neil, just checking in. We're on the way to Dongguan. We're actually in Dongguan now, and we're going to talk to about 300-400 suppliers, and these are factories in China, and these factories are looking for the good oil on how they can improve their marketing, how they can actually engage foreign buyers, but equally important, how they can have a sustainable business model, especially from the operational point of view, not only the marketing point of view. And we're going to go through, give them the good oil, give them as much as they can, answer their questions, but also stretch them about the importance of improving their quality, about the importance of collaboration, communication, and also the importance of compliance, especially compliance is so critical now to gaining OEM partnerships when working with foreign buyers. So these are things that we're trying to help on the ground in China. It's the only way to have direct engagement and to really help these factories build a sustainable future. So they'll be around after this current downturn for brighter days to come. All right, this is Neil in Dongguan, and hope to see you in China one day. Bye for now. Part of the talk I'm going to give to the suppliers today, the first part, is talk about especially the area of communications. Communication is so very critical, and actually the last thing I'll think about is a very important communication, especially with foreign buyers, is accounting and actually having a good accounting system in place. It's not about holding them accountable for their costs and things like that, but you use the accounting and the accounting information that they have to communicate to buyers that you have operations in order in terms of the costs, the revenues, the profits. You have some business model there. You are making some money. You're going to be around for 6 months' time. You're going around for 12 months' time for the buyer to reorder from you, and this is something that buyers want to know. So we encourage the suppliers to share information about their accounting system. That's the number one thing that we're going to talk about in terms of communication. A related thing associated with communication is the opportunity to partnership with buyers. Now, partnerships come about especially if the suppliers have the right business model in terms of complying with international requirements. This is in addition to having the right quality systems in place and other areas of operations. But compliance is very important. Buyers know that suppliers have the right licenses and they have exported previously, buyers are more likely to do business with them. They're more likely to go into an OEM relationship with them, original equipment manufacturing relationship with them. And so this is the second big point that we're going to stress for the suppliers. The third big point we're going to stress for the suppliers is the buyers are increasingly focusing on speed to market, and that is they want things yesterday. So how can suppliers better get equipped to speed to market? They want to be open to working with suppliers to integrate their information systems, so buyers can actually work with them in terms of design to manufacturing and working with the design teams, getting samples back, getting the prototypes back, and a quick turnaround in terms of the design phase so they can manufacture quickly and get to the market quicker. And so an increasing thing that buyers are doing, they're actually bringing their designers from Italy, from Germany, from the US, they're bringing them across to Hong Kong, if not straight to the factory in China, working with the factory so they get that turnaround and to bypass the problems that and the bottlenecks that occur through the internet, through the emailing, where there's misunderstandings about what a good prototype is and whether samples are matching different features of the prototype. That's all bypassed. So what buyers are trying to do now, especially GA and S. Oliver and other buyers I talk to, they're actually sending their supplier, they're sending their designers to Hong Kong, to China, to actually collaborate with the suppliers directly to get that design to manufacturing as soon as possible. So they're the first three big points that we're going to stress when we're talking to the suppliers today. So moving on to the fourth big point we want to stress for the suppliers today is this notion of speed to market, and the fact that buyers are increasingly ordering smaller volumes. They want to carry less inventory, they want faster orders, but each order is going to be smaller. And this is opposite to how factories have built a sustainable business over time. That is big volume, low margin. Now we want smaller volumes, and suppliers are worried about that their margin's not going to be bigger anyway. So there's an increasing pressure on suppliers to actually managing their costs better, and this is very important. And we've got ideas from target costing and how the Japanese and Koreans do it for their factories and actually cost down, cost down, cost down. We know that it's been implemented in high technology factories, especially robotics and the better management of labor. But how can the ordinary factory, supplier factory in China deal with these cost pressures, especially the pressures that come from having smaller volumes, especially as more of these Kickstarters and Indiegogo entrepreneurs want to prototype smaller and smaller volume of orders, just 500, 1,000. We're not talking about 10,000, we're not talking about 20,000. And suppliers normally say no to that, but increasingly suppliers have to say yes to these orders because the 10,000, 20,000 orders are not coming anymore. And so how can suppliers pivot and be ready for these smaller orders? I tell them two things they need to start doing. Start measuring electricity, start measuring the water. Once you start measuring that, you start to get a greater appreciation of the different costs that your factory are incurring. You start to get a greater appreciation of the different non-value added activities that are happening in the factory. That's another thing that they can start thinking about. And so we're going to stress upon that very simply today. We can't talk about everything, but just to start measuring aspects of the resources that are being consumed in the factory can help them better equip suppliers to be ready to actually say yes to a small order of 500 or less that's increasingly going to come from entrepreneurs around the world. Now, the fifth thing we're going to stress for the suppliers is very important, and this is really, we're going to show videos about the do's and don'ts in how to get assembly line operations going, especially anti-static bands, the use of gloves, the use of proper receiving materials inspection, just to show that you have the quality gates in order. So many factories we go to, they don't have the quality gates in order. In other words, they don't worry about receiving materials inspection. As one factory owner said to me, look, my Bluetooth speaker is a $4 FOB unit. Why would I waste money on receiving inspection? Look, you cannot not waste money on receiving inspection because it can affect your whole brand, your whole product range. And this is something I want to stress to the suppliers today. Very, very important to focus on receiving inspection. The other thing we're going to focus on also is keeping the factory clean. Maybe spending the first 30 minutes of every day, everyone, no matter what you do, you're on cleaning duty. The bosses, management, everyone, employees, everyone on cleaning duty to get that culture of cleanliness. When you have a clean factory, it's more likely you're going to pick up problems with quality in other areas. A dirty factory leads to quality problems in other areas. So these are some of the issues we're going to talk about, just some basic factory maintenance ideas that anyone can do. You don't have to be an engineer to do these things, and that's what we're going to stress to the suppliers today. So that's the fifth one. Back with some other points shortly. Bye for now. And we're up to point number 6. We're going to talk to the suppliers about compliance. Actually 6 and 7 are very, very important. Number 6 is social compliance issues. Now, we know that buyers are increasingly concerned about that employee age, but we're also talking about the freshness of the air in the factory. For example, lots of soldering, is there a vacuum tube that is sucking the actual solder fumes away from the workers? That's very, very important. When big buyers come along and they don't see that, then that raises a red flag. What I tell the suppliers is, why don't you pay $200 or $300 US and get a social compliance auditor into your factory to give you advice. Don't wait for the buyer to send that compliance auditor to you. Now, I know a lot of buyers are reluctant to do that. They're more likely to choose factories that already have a major brand name customer, because they know that brand name customer already has the social compliance audit come in and check out the factory. So they use that as a signal that the factory is in order. But maybe suppliers, you're not there yet in terms of having that major brand name. You're trying to get a buyer, then why don't you just pay that $200 or $300 to get the auditor in to try and get your factory up to speed, to show that you're proactive, to show that you are different from all the other factories. So that's number 6 on compliance. Number 7 on compliance is about licensing, and that's very, very important. That's another signal you can give to buyers, because buyers are looking to see if they want to partner with you. If you already have exported overseas and you have all the licenses, the CE, the UL, the FCC, the ROHS, everything that goes with the European standards, Canadian standards, US, Australian standards, all these licenses. If you all have them and all the ducks lined up, buyers are more willing to work with these type of suppliers. And so this is another signal that suppliers can give to the buyers that they're on the right track and they're ready to be partnered with. Okay, so catch you in the next session. We're going to talk to the suppliers about 6 and 7 on compliance. This is very, very important. I'm going to give them the example of the 30 tablet manufacturers that were kicked out of a trade show in Germany in 2014 because they didn't have the licenses for HDMI, for MP3 and other licenses that go with the applications that were playing on the tablet. The other thing I'll talk about is the Hoover boards. They've been banned from the US. They're not banned from other countries, but they're still manufacturing them in China. They're a fire hazard, we know that. Airlines don't want to have them imported don't want to have them on board. So I'm going to talk about that as another compliance issue, that standards haven't been made, but that doesn't mean that suppliers shouldn't think about the safety of these issues when they are making a product that doesn't yet have an acceptable standard, because you can actually destroy the whole market by actually just putting out rubbish products. So we're going to talk to them about these examples to make the suppliers think more about compliance, more about licensing, and more about the safety issues associated with the products, even if there's not a worldwide standard associated with that product. Bye for now. This is Neil and Dongguan. We'll get back on the latest top 10 issues we're going to talk about with suppliers. And we're counting down the top 10 issues we're going to talk about with suppliers today. We're helping the suppliers become world class. Now, number 8, now we're in 8, 9, 10, we're into the marketing area. Now, a lot of the questions that suppliers will have today will be about marketing. So it's sort of something that it's important, but they've got to get the manufacturing and operational ducks aligned first, which was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But number 8 is the branding strategy sequence. A lot of these suppliers, they're thinking, look, we just want to have a brand. How do we do O2O? How do we B2C? How do we do B2B? They just want to know how do they do one thing they haven't done before. We're trying to emphasize, you need to think about, number 1, the channel. What is the channel that you want to sell through? Is it through a distributor? Is it directly through the internet? Is it through wholesale? Is it through one way or another way? We need to talk about that. But number 2, they all think about marketing. How are we going to market their product? Are they going to advertise? Are they going to e-advertise at Facebook? How are they going to market? Are they going to have incentive programs? Are they going to do direct marketing? All these different things. But a lot of, so there's the channel, there's the marketing, but a lot of things that suppliers forget is the mind share. And the mind share is the middle part that is missing by a lot of these factories and trying to market their goods through whatever channel. The mind share is basically what the customer is thinking about their product. What is the customer thinking about their product? Does the customer like the functionality of certain parts of the product? Do they dislike other parts? How much does the supplier know what the customer knows about their product? And that's the mind share, and this is something that I want to emphasize to the suppliers today. Catch you for number 9 and number 10. Countdown, top 10 things we're going to talk about to the suppliers today. Bye for now.
Sure.
We're in Dongguan, Runway Hotel, and yes, we're counting down the top 10 issues we want to talk to suppliers about. And we just covered 1 to 8, and now we look at number 9. And number 9 is all about thinking about getting the supplier to focus on OEM or developing their brand name. And they're two different things. They don't go together. OEM is very much a volume business, and very much the buyer says this is what I want and the supplier makes it. Whereas brand name is very much low volume, high margin business, and it takes much longer to develop. And so these two things are separate. When you get salespeople to go out there and just sell OEM or sell the brand name, and you incentivize them in the same way, they're not going to do a good job. The salesman that is selling a brand name needs to focus on all the different functionality, all the different features that customers want, all the different mind share that the customer has about your product. And those type of salesmen are different from the salespeople or the incentives you want to give to them for selling the OEM brand, which is totally on more incentives for more volume of sales. So this is the big issue. Number 8, number 9. Focus your market is an OEM or brand. They're two different approaches, and they need to keep that in mind when they're working with their sales people. Hi Neil, it's Neil here. We're in Dongguan. We actually arrived at the hotel. I'll just count down the top 10 of the things that we're going to tell suppliers to get their act in order, to make sure that they do get some business even in these tough times that are going on around the world, China, everything like that. Okay, what's the number 10? The number 10 is a big one, and it is marketing. Remember the last 3 words, marketing. Marketing was, we looked at mind share, then we looked at focus on OEM or brand. They're two different things. That was number 8. Number 9. Number 10 was their trade show strategy, and it's very important that they actually focus on their product, that they display their brand well, that they're multimedia if possible, lots of different issues in how they could set up their booth. We're going to talk about that to them today. That's what they're here for, because this is courtesy of Global Sources. We're in Dongguan. Top 10 issues, focusing on how suppliers can become world-class, how they get that big business from global buyers, and that's what we're here for. On the ground, this is where it happens, and we hope to add some value to the suppliers while we're here. This is Neil in Dongguan in China. Catch you in China one day. Bye for now.